5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Materialize. Hello Capricorn, welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Virgo. This is happening on the 7th of March at 11:42 p.m. So it'll be a night sky moon if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. Great big bright beautiful full moon to say sayonara to that last cycle. Think about it this way, a full moon in Virgo is the final lunation of a year of the zodiac. If Pisces is the culmination of everything and Aries is the instigation of the next, the last lunation in Pisces season is going to be the one that is the last push. We can almost feel like some kind of release of the ties that maybe have been holding us in place, that haven't been allowing us to live out our 2023 New Year's resolutions to their fullest potential. We can sort of move away from that now. So every year, a full moon in Virgo is going to have this feeling for us, Capricorn, but this one has an extra special kind of, it's almost like an alarm bell for the first domino to fall down in our outer planets, the changing of the era, the big shift that we've all been sort of waiting with bated breath about. So Saturn, the planet of boundary and restriction and regulation, the one that rules you, Capricorn, Saturn is moving from Aquarius into Pisces a few hours after this full moon. And so with it, it's going to mark a point in the journey that is the first change of the guard, the first shift into the new era. Saturn's been in Aquarius since 2020, since March of 2020. And so you can sort of remember what Saturn in Aquarius taught all of us about boundary, restriction, regulation. Right now, as this full moon lights up your 9th house, which is the house of mind expansion and travel, and where we're going to journey to next to learn and to build up our spiritual knowledge in those practices. Full moon's a great time to release, so we can either we can let go of the limitations that we've maybe set around ourselves in regard to thinking that maybe we're not smart enough, or we don't quite get it, or we can't really get our heads around that sort of hippie bullshit. Or it can be sort of like a pushback and a rejection maybe of something that's too dogmatic. Maybe you've found yourself in a group of thinkers that are giving us a whole bunch of thou shalt not, you know. This is the 9th house in a sort of more challenging aspect is the thou shalt not. And so the full moon there is going to allow us to like kick away from that and be like, see yous, I'm out, I'm doing my own thing. I can see something that's kind of intangible at the moment, but it's taking form. The closer that I move towards it, the closer that I study it. Remember that Virgo in the major secrets of the tarot is the hermit. And this character's alone, but they're not lonely. They're moving forward because they see something in the distance. They carry the star with them in their lantern. The star we know is Aquarius. The star is the great extraterrestrial from outer space who comes to Earth to show us the way, to teach us what's good for us with love and compassion and with freedom. And so this hermit is alone, but they're not lonely. They're shedding from themselves the trappings, the noise, the busyness that they've kept around them to keep their hands busy, to keep their mind busy. But in this moment, they've decided to put that down because they've got bigger fish to fry. They've got bigger things to learn. I like this hermit hanging out in your ninth house, Capricorn. It suits you. It's a lovely placement. Every Capricorn rising will have Virgo in their 10th house, in their ninth house. So at the end of every trip around the zodiac, every full moon that we have in Virgo from now on, you can think to yourself, if you're on a spiritual path, if you're following this sort of journey of your own, you can always think to yourself, I release what doesn't work for me anymore. Thou shalt not up yours. I am a free agent in this. I actually have autonomy in this too. There's no guru that I need. There's no amount of books or self-help or guidance that I actually really need. I can find it. I can find my own way if I really want to. Help is always very, very, received in good faith. But as far as moving towards something that will save me, I really know that I can save myself if I think about it, because I've got the star in my lantern. The moon's at 16 degrees of Virgo, and the tarot card for that is the Nine of Pentacles. You know Pentacles, you love Pentacles, you're a Capricorn. So the Nine of Pentacles is that moment of absolute reflection. The sun's shining, the garden is bountiful, the nature that has been created through cultivation, the space that we can call home, is fruitful and pulsating with life and happiness. And so in this moment, we get to think to ourselves, shit, I did this. I made this. The sweat on my brow, the cracks in my hands. I put this together. I'm real proud of myself. Again, alone, but not lonely. It's a big difference, isn't there? So that's the full moon. So that's what I want you to kind of have running through you. If you're thinking that there's not enough time, I haven't done this, or I haven't achieved that, or I haven't managed that yet, you can kiss that back to the wind at this full moon. This full moon and every full moon in Virgo, I would say, Capricorn. But now let's go back to Pisces. Let's think about this change from Saturn, the boundary, the restriction since March of 2020. It's been in Pisces, been in Aquarius, moving into Pisces. And it hasn't been in Pisces for 30 years. So depending on how old you are, if you can think back to 30 years ago, and if you have memories and experience as an adult person, have a little think about the possibility of Saturn in Pisces. I think it will really hold us all in great support if we can take what we learned from our last experience of Saturn in Aquarius into the space of Pisces. It'll really help us a lot if we're able to work with those lessons and use those guidelines that are protective and that will keep us sustained in this life. So for you, Pisces is the third house. Remember, we've talked about the idea of the third house being your village, your local environment, the way that you communicate, also your folk magic. In stark contrast to that ninth house. I think in the last horoscope we spoke to a lot of those kind of the complementary nature of the third and the ninth house. It's almost as if this sort of like pep talk about being your own, being your own guiding light is kind of true. You can probably have more faith in that than you really realize because of Saturn in that third house for you. The third house can be folk magic in terms of tarot and any lesson that's put forward with voice rather than so much than with essay is all to do with the ninth house, our village, our neighborhood, where we can travel to by bike, rather than by aeroplane. So what can you take from when we can feel the kind of release of the restriction, perhaps around your second house, which is where we find our money, that's our value system, that's been released. What have you learned that's going to encourage you to find the right neighborhood? I'm going to get some more tarot cards, but let's have a little think about that. I've got my eye on Aries too, so there's a couple of days after the full moon in Virgo, on the 13th of March, Jupiter will be making a conjunction with Chiron. So Jupiter is the fairy godmother of the zodiac, the caretaker, and Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron points to the parts of life where we might have some unconscious wounding. The Chiron transit may be less pertinent to really make mention of unless there's a conjunction like this. And so what I see here is there is an emphasis on healing. This is all happening in your fourth house, which is your root system, your ancestry, your home and your privacy. So it feels like, because the next lunation we get, which is a new moon in Aries, gives us the opportunity to hope for in that space. So yeah, I think after this full moon, there's going to be a moment of clarity, a moment of specific healing that can be done. And then there's going to be the new moon in Aries for us to make a wish and to ask for what we want in terms of our relationship with home and ancestry and privacy. If that's been difficult for us to quantify, then this Aries season will allow us that room. The cards I got for you are the Lovers in reverse, the Four of Cups in reverse, and the Four of Pentacles. Now the Four of Pentacles is Capricorn. The Four of Pentacles is the last decan of Capricorn. So that sentiment of kind of rigidity, of sort of kind of holding on to what it is that you do have amidst turbulence, or with maybe like the reluctance to let go of it because of the worry of it being taken, or the worry of it being, advantage being taken over your individual. I've got the Lovers in reverse and I've got the Four of Cups in reverse. So it's kind of like I'm being told a story of like there's a choice to be made, but there's really no choice. The choice has been made. This has had to happen. And this, as much as you can kind of try and like think your way out of it, as much as you're trying to sort of bring back that feeling of, like autonomy over the situation, sort of like, no, this is a choice that we're making together. This feels to me, it's sort of like, no, this choice has been made. And if you've been feeling a bit embarrassed that you kind of, opened yourself up to possibility only to be disappointed, again, Capricorn, first up, I'm really sorry that that's happened for you. But second up, there's almost like bigger fish to fry here. It's almost as if you can stand in your Capricorn identity and be like, actually, you know what? Like solid ground. Solid ground is what I seek. We're about to be entering into this new era. Because I will say that Saturn has left Aquarius at this moon, but Pluto's on the way. All of those lessons about disintegration and deconstruction that you've been dealing with, Capricorn, everything that you kind of can sort of put your hand up and say, I know a thing or two about I know a thing or two about rebirth. I know a thing or two about rock bottom and clawing my way back up to the top. That's another ingress that's moments away. It's happening in Aries season. It's happening in March, just later in the month. And so it's kind of like, as much as this choice wasn't really maybe yours to make, or there was no choice, it just didn't work out, it just wasn't right, there's actually, I'm more interested in your sense of self. I'm more interested in your identity and what it is that you are going to be reflecting on as these planets move sign. Pluto's going to be moving back into Capricorn this year as well. It does move for our first taste of Pluto in Aquarius in March, I think on the 23rd of March, but then it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn and then move forward again next year. So it kind of, there's a seesawing, you know, it's such a wave of power. And it's the final degrees of Capricorn too, you know, so like hang on to that. It's sort of like, have I learned these lessons? Do I know what I'm talking about? Am I free? Am I no longer goo? Have I broken through that chrysalis? Yes? No? Maybe a bit. But like, as much as this sort of, this disappointment, you know, this hope couldn't really materialize for you, it doesn't matter, because this soul work that you're doing, this change of era that we're all experiencing, this identity shift for you is so much more important. That choice was made that way to make room enough for us to really come to terms with these final degrees of Pluto in Capricorn into Aquarius, back into Capricorn, back into Aquarius. It's going to be a tennis match in slow motion. You know, Saturn doesn't move back into Aquarius from Pisces. Saturn stays there the whole time. So we can come to relax into that and to figure out what those limitations are, what those rules are. As Pluto's a different story. This is like a pendulum. So hold tight, Capricorn. We're not quite out of the woods just yet. And as much as this was really disappointing, in a greater perspective, in the long term, you'll come to recognize that was it couldn't have worked out any other way. Okay, well, that's your reading, Capricorn. I hope that was a good one. Head to umaruby.com and get your birth chart read by me if you haven't already. You can also put some money in the tip jar at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I will be with you in 2 weeks for that new moon in Aries. This is the initial match. We're going to start this new era together and then grapple with the eclipses as they come. So until then, I've got lots to kind of reflect on myself and think about and contemplate and prepare for. So I'll be back with you in 2 weeks for those horoscopes. But book your birth chart reading between now and then as well. You can always book in advance too. Anyway, I'll speak to you later. Bye.